outside Africa is the sites represented by hand axes and cleavers, and the authors will be hand axes and cleavers or Homo erectus. So from Homo erectus till about 300,000 years ago, the biological evolution was largely confined to Africa, and that is where our human ancestor Homo sapiens also evolved. And for a long time, he was colonizing other parts of Africa. And around 70,000 years ago, he moved northwards into the region north of the rainforest area into southern Europe and Southwest Asia, and then spread across. And at this point of time, these Homo sapiens encountered Neanderthals in Europe, another human ancestral group which was well adapted to European cold climate, and then the Denisovans. Denisova is a cave in Siberia where in the last 20 years they found evidence for a very different type of human ancestor. We call human any fossil as a human because they were capable of making tools. So that is cultural behavior. So Denisovans, Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, so they met. You see that migration, as I said, that was contributing to meeting different contemporary communities who were well adapted to different geographical environments. They lived together for tens of thousands of years. They interbred, and then amongst these three, in the last 100,000 years, our ancestors survived, and then the other two literally became extinct. We don't have any evidence, but it is reflected in the genetic study. There's an area called archaeogenetics, which also helps us understand human biological evolution through study of DNA. And contemporary population living anywhere in the world have a share of DNA from Neanderthals, a share of DNA from Denisovans and so on. If you go to Eastern Asia and then Southeast Asia, we see greater component of Denisovan gene in those populations. In us, in Indians, we have 2 to 3% of Neanderthal genes in us, and in fact, when Corona was threatening the survival of humanity, the proneness to Corona was detected because of the presence of Neanderthal gene in all of us. So, we have successfully overcome this threat. So this interaction, now we have lived together, we have interbred, and then the most successful are our ancestors, and we are the only human community living on the earth. We don't have a competitor. Our competitors are the predators or whatever. So that is how we trace these human expansions in terms of two major events, out of Africa 1 and out of Africa 2, and we all belong to out of Africa 2 expansion of human ancestors, and we have colonized the entire planet and even going beyond our planet and so on. And as I said, the time scales that we are dealing with, you can just see here on the left hand column and the right hand column, the entire last 2.6 million, now we may have to go back to 3.3 million here, but the consistent and continuous uninterrupted archaeological records belong to this time period, which we call Pleistocene and then Holocene. The last 10,000 years is called Holocene, and then 2.6 million years ago to 10,000 years ago we call Pleistocene, which is again subdivided based on geological and other kinds of evidence into early Pleistocene or lower Pleistocene, middle Pleistocene and late Pleistocene. Early and middle Pleistocene witnessed the emergence of Homo, and then middle Pleistocene we see the descendants of Homo erectus in terms of Homo heidelbergensis. Heidelbergensis giving rise to Neanderthals, Heidelbergensis giving rise to Homo sapiens, and we still do not know who gave rise to Denisovans. That research is still going on. And so Homo sapiens are the ones which evolved around 300,000 years ago and expanded out of Africa when they had invented a new type of stone tool called microliths, backed microliths. They are very 4 centimeter long, small parallel-sided blades with various types and forms. We call them geometric forms, we call them points, lunates, trapezoids, triangles, and so on. And they were not used individually, they were hafted. They were used as composite tools, they were used for tipping the arrow, and these people were capable of exploiting aquatic resources, water bodies, inland water bodies, ocean, coastal area, and so on. So they had this access to new technology. Although microliths, when compared to the tools which were produced earlier, are very, very small, diminutive, and look very miserable. And for a long time it was thought a degeneration. But then when archaeological research was carried out in a multidisciplinary perspective, they said yes, this was an adaptive strategy, and they invented these microliths in order to successfully adapt and expand over much more larger geographical areas. So microlithic invention around 80 to 90,000 years ago enabled our ancestors to spread across Africa, move northwards into Southwest Asia or Middle Asia, and then they were also successful in colonizing coastal belts. See, that is where I thought these coastal regions across the old world should be potential for identifying the paths of dispersal and the way in which these microlithic people were capable of colonizing.